What's up, guys? It's Corrupted
And it's Dragon.
back again, once again. And this week,
Once again.
this week we went a little off the normal shonen stuff that we have on here, and we went with Slice of Life since it's the end of April. It's the
Last stream in April.
last stream of April, so we kind of had to do Your Lie in April, which is I'm not a big Slice of Life fan, but it's probably my favorite
Me
Slice of
neither.
Life.
It's
It
probably the
like
only slice of life I've actually watched and given time to.
Yeah, like I've
So,
watched like four slice of lives, and I only really like two of them, and this is one of them. So I just thought we should do it since it's the last thing in April, just 'cause it fits too perfectly, and we couldn't do it last year 'cause we were working on the One Piece, and I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the One Piece stuff.
of
So,
course, feel that. Make sure y'all
so
like, comment, subscribe, man. We appreciate everybody that come in, check in. You know, dialogue is always welcome. Of course, conversation always gets better when more people are part of it. But yeah, appreciate y'all stopping in. Let's get it.
so the big thing I want to talk about with Your Lie in April is I had this idea a while back to make a video on it, but I was convinced I wouldn't be able to explain it properly in a video, so I wanted to do it as the actual podcast episode just because I was afraid
More
of
language.
how to like condense it into it without sounding like an absolute lunatic.
Now
And
you got more range when you talk about doing it in a podcast space
yeah, you
because
got so
you're not
much more.
constricted on time.
Yeah,
You're not restricted on editing, making everything work with it, getting a visual for it. Yeah, so
yeah.
I understand.
So the concept I wanted to talk about it was, and it like looking at the show from this perspective actually makes it so much better in my opinion is so in analytical psychology, Carl Jung, one of the fathers of analytical psychology, he
We've also talked about on the pod before, if y'all didn't know.
yeah, we had uh his idea of the collective unconscious, and then like the personal unconscious. Well, when you fully become an actualized member like of not member, but like when you fully become like the person that you like the greatest version of yourself, he believed that you would
Right.
integrate your shadow and you would integrate this thing called the anima slash animus. It's anima if you're a boy, animus if you're a girl, and it's part of the collective unconscious that is the opposite gender of you. So, like, in a guy, it's supposed to give you your, like, love for artistic expression and deeper connection to life's beauty, or it's supposed to like show you the meaning or help you experience joy or contentment and belonging more fully than you
Exactly.
normally
Yep.
do.
Yep.
And there's four different aspects of it. Like he broke it down into four different aspects. He called them Eve, like Eve from the Bible, Helen of Troy, Mary, as in the Mother Mary, and then Sophia, which is a Greek word for wisdom. And so Eve's basically supposed to be like the the part of the anima that your mother imparts in you. And so it's also not always good. The anima is not always good, which is exemplified with Kosei, because he
Yeah.
even like the parts with his mother messed him up so much that he even hallucinates his mother while he's playing. So,
Dude, not even
like you
why he's just
see,
playing, dude. The deeper levels.
well,
But
yeah,
yeah.
like he's constantly hallucinating all the stuff that happened with his mom. But Eve is supposed to be like I said, the thing that's created by the mother. And so, since his mom starts good, and then like his relationship with his mom, like we see, excuse me, we see it starts like real good, like normal, especially when Saito, I think is how you say her name, shows up, his
Saki?
mom's best friend.
Oh no, his mom's best friend. Yeah, Saito. Yeah, Saito.
Yeah. Um, when she shows up, you see like before she got sick, their relationship was fantastic. Like when
Right.
he was like a toddler, his and his mother's relationship was fantastic, and it just corroded over time because she wanted to impart everything because she was supposed to be what Saito became before she got
Exactly.
sick.
Before she got sick.
Yeah, she was
Hmm.
supposed to be like the next big thing in the piano world in Japan before she got sick.
Even and that's a bar in of itself too, because one of the things that I noticed in the beginning too is how well known Arima was, and they also mentioned his mom, but they never. One thing the story never did was never echo early on, never echo his mom's like ability to play the piano or how known she already was, but she just wasn't at that next level yet. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like that she what this is of course what I deduced from it. It wasn't like she had made her name, is that she had never proven her name, had never taken the the competition route, the competitive route towards the real true pianist route, of getting known. And she was putting that towards Kosei in a way, of course, that we see in a harsher way. Then of course she was probably introduced. But yeah,
Yeah, and it's just super interesting because, like, start with his mom being Eve. If you look through the Kosei's journey, he runs into a girl that is a perfect metaphor for each stage of the anima. Like, each level is how you normally see it presented, how they describe it is as levels. And so his mom would be Eve. Um,
yeah,
it's normally object of desire, provider, nourishment, security, and love. So the mother figure. And then there's Helen, named after Helena Troy, who was in Greek mythology like the most beautiful woman ever. That they literally start the first ever world war over.
yeah, literally.
Like legitimately, like it starts the Trojan War, which is the like it basically brings the Western world of the time to war. So it's technically the First World War, but most of it's fake anyway. But she's supposed to be the women are viewed as like intelligent, insightful, if not altogether virtuous,
Exactly.
and it's meant to
Yep.
show the strong schism in external talents and the lacking internal qualities
And a great
that you
that you said
have.
lacking internal qualities is a big one, because early on in Kari's introduction, when Arima was breaking her down, she was contradicting everything that his mom had originally taught him. When it comes down to
Yeah,
how
like to
she
play
acted
it
on the
with your
stage.
like play
Yeah,
it with your heart,
how she
not
acted
with
on the
like
stage. Yeah, playing with your heart, not with your with memory, with muscle memory, because she was contradicting everything that he had originally thought she was contradicting, especially when she first was teaching the little girl and when they was in the shop, when they was playing piano together and stuff like that. When she first dropped, oh, he's a pianist too. I should have caught it then. Now I feel kind of dumb. But in the shop, when she first dropped that he was a pianist too, and when she was contradicting everything how she was playing, it was kind of all laying itself out right there, and it explains exactly what you're talking about.
and then Saito would be Mary.
Yes.
Um, Mary's supposed to be the one that's like righteous and your idea of virtue because she's basically the one that helps him keep going and slowly put
Yep.
everything back together after he gets inspired to put things back together. She's the one that like shows him
Drives. She's a driving
like
force.
well not no Kari's the driving force. It's more so
No, I mean like I don't mean like the driving force, probably the wrong word. She's more like
yeah,
the helping hand, the true helping hand, maybe.
I'm
Like
trying to think of the right
way
word.
the way like the chaperone, the the sensei role in kind of it. Just the
Kind of.
guiding hand that push him forward. Cause she, of course, she's got the background, she's got the knowledge. Cause it also dropped. It was a later drop, But when they dropped all the stuff about his mom again and stuff, that she was the one who pushed Saki to make him a pianist in the beginning, because
Yeah.
she originally didn't want to, and if she would have known it would have got this far, she would have never did it.
Yeah, so
It's one
what
of
it
the things she said.
Mary's supposed to do? It's manifests religious feelings and the capacity for lasting relationships. So basically, she's the one that gives him the capacity to have a lasting relationship with, for lack of better words, the piano, which is like not
Something
just
he's
the
rejected
piano.
a lot at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. It's not just the piano there. It's also his mom.
Him as a
Like it's
pianist,
he's creating the lasting connection, like to the relationship with his mom's death,
because
with Kaori's death,
in the same in the
with
same
Subaki.
climactic performance, he ends up, instead of seeing his mom as a shadow void behind his ear that was making him play, he started seeing her in a different light. They started having a memory about, oh, if you're gonna play it, you don't hit it so hard, play it like this, play it gentle, like I used to hold her. And that's when they first showed her eyes. That was one thing that
Mm-hmm.
um that they was pointing out to me earlier, like pay attention to like her eyes, and they was never showing them. When they first showed them, it was different. So you started seeing her in a different light, a more warmer light, a more gentler light. And of course, like you said, I feel like it was Saito Saito that helped him see that, helped him kind of see that different perspective. So yeah, I see.
And then the final part, Sophia. It's hard to say which one is it. You could argue once Tsubaki fully understands herself that it's Tsubaki, but you could also argue that it's I can't remember the rival's little sister's name. I never remember her name.
Oh, Nagia.
Nagi. You could argue like they both fill the role of that because um what Sophia's supposed to do is it's where like once you integrate Sophia, you've completed the integration, which it allows women to be seen and related as this particular individual who possess positive and negative traits. It's the most important aspect, but it's like the thing
Yeah, I
that
can see
gives you
why you
the
say that.
wisdom
I can definitely see why you say both, because Nagi
that gets
explicits
a little
that
bit of
in.
both.
Yeah, I see Nagi explicits that because she's a little bit like Subaki too, but Subaki explicits it a lot more, especially we talk about how. Because I mean, I said that myself. I was like, how does girl like him? But every time I see him, she hurting him, kicking him in the shin. I mean, she was the one that pushed him in the water the first time. She headbutted him, made him almost fall in the water and almost drown. Then got upset that that she was the one that almost caused it. And that was a parallel because in what Kaori did, she jumped in with him instead of pushing him in, which is one
Hmm.
of the things that end up contradicting another one of his um old like what do you call them? His old like generalization, stereotypes, whatever you want to say, like his old understanding is the broad term. I was looking for a more specific term, but that was one of the things I saw that contradict one of his old understandings is how he should be treated, because Arma was going back and forth really between whether he loved her or not, and it was kind of obvious why. Because I don't think he had been treated the way he had been. I mean, Kyrie was doing Subaki type stuff, but not in a Subaki type way. She was still being forward and aggressive, but she was pushing him more so in his passions and in his ventures more so than like actual physically, and more so dragging him along is what it kind of felt like. But in a way, you find out later, but I ain't gonna interrupt your thought now. I'll discuss that later. But I see, because in Tsubaki and Nagi, they both have those positive and negative traits. Tsubaki's echoed a little bit more, but Nagi's is more so in the field of in the in the music field. That was more so echoed because that was something that was starting to be two dynamics later too, which was his main life and his friends and Watari, Kaori, and Tsubaki. Then coming over to the piano side after the rivals start coming together, he had Nagi, then Takashi was coming around, then of course Emi, right? The other girl, you just said her name and I
Yeah,
forgot it just that fast.
Emmy's the other piano player.
Yeah, she had the emotional kind of set too in the beginning. Went on right after Takashi, but yeah, all them start coming together, and you start to see he had two nucleuses instead of just the one. and the two different worlds that he was end up becoming a part of. And of course, Nagi becomes the Tsubaki of that world that he was becoming a part of. Except he would, instead of doing what he did to Tsubaki, instead of Tsubaki leading him, he tried to lead her because of course she looked up to him and it was obvious.
And then, so two very interesting things with like the Jungian psychology part of it. Um, before you integrate your or before you integrate the anima, you normally are supposed to integrate your shadow, which I think is brilliantly done by the conversation that he has with the black cat. Because the black cat's like clearly like a shadow version of himself because they have like the same voice actor and everything, and the shadow is supposed to not necessarily be the bad side of you. It just has all your potential to be bad, but it also has all your potential for all your creative endeavors.
Yep.
So him having to confront the shadow before he goes on stage that time is, like, in my opinion, brilliant. Like, he becomes one with the shadow, and then the shadow takes the picture of the cat that his mom had to get rid of because she was so pissed that it hurt him before he could play the piano because it scratched his hand pretty bad. But
Which is
and
crazy because if it was like
yeah,
scratched his leg or something, it wouldn't have been a big deal.
yeah, it's all because it messed up his ability to play the piano. But it's like, to me personally, I just think that's like a beautiful metaphor. How it's a black cat, and then it was a black cat that was abandoned, like his mom abandoned the cat, which implies that she forced Arima. I'm gonna call him Arima a lot of times on accident, just because that's what most people call him
Yeah, that's
in
how
the
I've
show.
been calling him,
Um,
going back and forth.
she abandons the black cat, which is, in my opinion, a metaphor for his shadow, which forces him to suppress all those things.
Yep.
Like it for so since it's a metaphor for his shadow being kicked out of the house and abandoned, he had to abandon his shadow, and that's why he becomes so robotic, because the shadow holds all your capacity to do all the stuff that's creative. Even though it holds all your capabilities of doing all the bad stuff you can do too, it also holds your ability to be creative, to stand up for yourself, to
Unless
basically to fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean like getting a fist fight, but like
no, to
try your
continue
hardest to
forward
do something. Yeah, yeah,
through
yeah, to strive
adversity,
forward. Yeah, yeah,
through
it's the
all
part of
adversity,
you that like makes it not necessarily
that
possible,
willpower.
but it makes it easier to get through adversity, stuff like
And
that.
you're right. You're right because it's a lot of I felt a lot of that too because they tried to incorporate or introduce Chelsea as like a bad thought at first. And it took me a minute because because at first Chelsea was in like his dreams or like in the same kind of imagery that his mom was in is like almost haunting him. And that's what I thought at first too, and I had to come out of it because when he started going diving into Chelsea a little bit more, and you start, wait a minute, Chelsea was one of the first three one what it looked like one of the first times he had the opportunity to fight and he didn't. And he loved Chelsea. He knows that if he would have said it was okay, and like to not say, he feel like he could have made his mom keep her. So, like you said,
Yeah,
it's
he
a
was
beautiful
convinced
metaphor
that they
because the
could have
black
kept
cat
her.
symbol, yeah, beautiful metaphor because the black cat symbol of bad luck and negativity. But when you start really looking at it and dive down into it, Chelsea was coaching him. Chelsea was
Yeah,
looking at
especially
him
when
like in
he imagined.
those same yeah, in those same kind of flashbacks and same kind of daydreams, dude, Chelsea was coaching him like, oh, you have a big day coming up. Actually, somebody that was talking to him like you would want a parent at the house or a big sis or a big brother to like sit down and talk to you. Like, you got a big day tomorrow, make sure you get some rest because it's going to be really big for you. And I thought that was really deep right there. And when it come down at the end of it, it was when I was looking at all the rise in action right before, of course, the eventual last performance of Arima when he was, of course, trying to convey his last feelings in the performance to Kyrie. When also the metaphor right there in those same flashbacks you had him showing about them going up into the hospital and stuff, and the cat was all on his leg and stuff, and they was worried about her. And of course, in the same frame, the stray cat ends up getting hit by a car. He tries to take it to a vet. So,
Yeah,
um,
but
yeah,
also
it was the
like
thing.
that's another thing is that it like there the black cat that he finds that's hit by the car is a metaphor for Cowrie, which just shows like since earlier the black cat's a metaphor for his shadow. It shows that part of it's in his head. Like, you know what I mean? Like how
Hmm.
the part of Kyrie that helped him is the anima. Like him realizing the anima in her and making it, like, choosing to make his life better by listening to her. The same things, like the connection's still there, that it's like saving the black cat is a mental thing that he needs because he needs it to survive, because he even calls her a
Right,
black cat, implying that
right.
part of her psyche is ingrained in his own, thanks to the whole thing with the black cat being the one
And
that
that's the big
coaches him
umbrella.
inside his own head.
This pretty, yeah, bro. That's you pretty much explaining the big umbrella for the whole show. Like, is what it feel like, because everything, literally, from right there when we talk about the metaphor for Kyrie, when you look at not even just the cat, but when you look at like how Nagi, Takashi, and Emi all were like fragmented differences for everything Kyrie did for Arma, because I started noticing that too. Because Takashi was pushing him, Emmy was having the was doing the observing, kind of looking at him and like feeling and doing the opposite, whereas Nagi was the teacher, was the student, not the teacher, but like she was becoming the student of him, kind of still kind of learning from him, but also trying to challenge him musically. All three of them were in the more musical aspect of the relationship. That's why Kari's relationship and Arma's relationship was more bigger than just the music. That's why when you look at it on the other side, you saw how she fit in with the other three, because bro, like she was the only one in the other group who was musically inclined with them too. So of course they had a closer relationship. But I'm seeing it like from both sides. Even when we get into that umbrella, bro, we keep going. But my bad. I
Also,
mean, continue on.
and then the other part of it is, so there's actually another part besides that first part, but it's more complicated. So I'll go with the second part that I want to talk about, which is Jung said that if a man doesn't integrate his not shat but his anima, he becomes anima possessed, which is basically the anima controls part of the man's life. And he said a man whose anima is not integrated would be a spineless wimp who does not know when or how to take action in the world. He's moody, sulky, throws tantrums, very passive, totally overreacts to slights and confrontations. He's not appropriate in his actions. He's either paralyzed and can't find the energy needs to do what needs to be done, or jumps into actions when he should be thinking about it first. And he's normally very close or in relationships with what Jung called an animus hound, which is a woman who is possessed by her animus. And that ties into the other, like, most genius part of it, probably, is that you could argue that Tsubaki is possessed by her animus, and
Yeah,
and
I 100% see that.
Arima is possessed by his anima, and they're both slowly working out how to fix it to where it's actually a part of them instead of controlling them. And then by the end of the story,
Hmm.
once they learn to control it, like, they clearly don't have it perfectly intact, they they have it in control enough where they can slowly become better. And you see every time, like, once they
Oh,
start controlling it and integrating it, they make everybody else's life around them better too. Like
even because even
like
in the sake
Takashi
as you say
Emi,
that, and I'm trying to
they force themselves to
exactly.
get
You know,
better.
you're right.
Cause he got better. Nagi forces herself to get better. Tsubaki forces herself to get better. Like, remember, she's like, it's implied that she's not a very good student. Like, she's like a C average student, but she works her
Hmm.
ass off to go with to move
Hmm.
to the same prefecture for high school as
And then
Arima,
she ended up becoming top of her
making sure she get
class.
B's. Was she top of her class? Cause she just made B's.
Well, no, she was top. She was top of one of her classes, where she had like, because I remember, everybody in the class like did horrible, and then
Yeah,
she
I
did
think that
like
was
the
just a
best.
test. That was
Probably
like,
just
I
a
think
test. I
that was
might
like
have
the
been
final thing.
misunderstanding it,
Yeah, that
but
was
I
my
know for a
understanding, but
fact that
you could be right though.
if you sit there, and I think I understand it, because like when Arma starts to invoke his other styles, when he starts recognizing her more, is like start pointing out more that she's a girl, right? It was like at
Yeah,
that
to a
point in the stories
degree.
when he had started to do, yeah, because he start. I remember the same moment they brought up more than once was when he hit her when they was talking. He would say, "Would he kill you to it would it kill you to give me a compliment, essentially. And then like they brought it up again because like that was at the moment when she started like seeing like could she actually compliment him, which I thought that was a deep thing too because it started to go back into what Kakashi, I think that's the girl's name, right? Who was like kind of egging her on,
I think that's her
kind
best
of her
friend.
friend in the background.
I think
Yeah,
that's
her
her
best
best
friend
friend.
who was kind of talking to her. She was kind of like telling her like, bro, you like everybody know you like pretty much like to do like you telling her pretty much you tripping. She was pretty much like her conscious. She was the one telling her like, especially when at the end, not at, pretty much when Arma, she pretty much knew that Arma was devastated by what had happened to Kari, and she told him when you know that your best friend is crying, you don't leave to go get him a new handkerchief. You give him your sleeve, and that was the catalyst that made her run and think, oh, I got to go and go check on him. But before we even get to that, it was a lot of stuff before that that Kakashi, I think I'm saying her name right, was like in the background doing stuff that kind of shaped a lot of things Tsubaki was doing. Because I imagine if she wasn't there, Tsubaki's pretty impulsive, and she was running from her feelings, like pretty much Usain Bolton from her feelings for a lot of that. Um, because I'm still trying to process like the whole thing, at the
Hmm.
letter towards the end, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But like to exclude that, just dissecting Tsubaki more, just off what you said, like she just
Well,
literally,
I think a good way to like start that is to explain what the different stages of the animus are,
go
because it
ahead.
fits perfectly with Tsubaki's story too. So the first
Yeah,
stage is Young called it Tarzan, because
yeah,
back when Young was doing stuff, the book Tarzan was super popular. So it's Tarzan, and it's man of mere physical power, and it's a personification of mere physical force, such as like an athletic dude or like a muscle man. Like that's how like Young worded it, because that's what they were called back in the day, just like strongman type stuff. But a good example is Saito for
yeah,
Subaki. We're at the start, and like he's like was the best athlete at their school before he moved up to. I don't know how the grading system works there because I was not 14 in middle school. So I think they're, if I remember correctly, like the middle school is like 7th, 8th, and ninth grade. And then you go to high school, I think is how it works. I'm not 100% sure. But so like the pure physical power dude would be Saito. And then Byron, man of action or romance. Um, I guess you could argue that's who Watari is in her life, because he's just trying to be a player all the time. Like he's just supposed to be possesses initiative. Uh, what's it called? Possesses initiative and the capacity for planned action. The romantic man is named
yeah,
after some thing a character from a poem, I think. I'm not 100% sure. And then there's the thing he called the Lloyd George, because apparently Lloyd George was at the time one of the greatest orators, and it's man as a professor, Cloryman, or orator, so basically as a teacher. And then the final one is Hermes, man as a spiritual guide, and it's basically teaches to be like how the final stage of the anima is like the one that like helps you find meaning throughout. That's what basically the Hermes stage is for the animus. And if somewhat when a woman is possessed by her animus, she'll be overly boy. She'll be super abrasive, very like, for lack of a better term, willing to fight, and that describes Tsubaki damn near perfectly. Cause she's even made fun of for it in their flashbacks, like when they're eating the popsicle on the beach. You're just like, no, my feet aren't small. You're just a Bigfoot. When they're on the
yeah.
beach
They
running.
started. I think they
What?
started using that whole string as like an indication of like just changing how much Tsubaki was actually lost in the sauce for all this time. and actually started realizing how much he had grown. Because they said that they was together all the time. So it literally like she started it echoes how when you think about this lens, it echoes just when you think about they were together all the time, you would have thought that you would have known he had gotten bigger than you. But when you think about how they're incorporating the what is she's the animus and he's incorporating the anima, or is it the other way around? Or did I just say it
Arima's
wrong?
Animus for girl
Excuse
is
me.
the girl inside boys. Animus is the boy inside
Right.
girls.
Yeah. So in her in her journey, you see that's part of the process is her now realizing some of this stuff because she never really thought about it before. I'm starting
Yeah,
to
and it's
understand it.
just really cool, like little things that tend to line up with it. And then
Yeah,
especially
that
how he
Saito would be
talks
a
about like how Arma I keep wanting to call him like a combination of Kosei and Arma at the same time, like Koama and stuff like
RSA.
that, is what my brain keeps wanting to say. But like a good example, what like him seeing Kaori as the crap, my computer's glitching out. Being Helena Troy would be like how he describes her. Like uh good example is you exist within springtime, a flourish of life unlike anything I've ever known. Cause what's called, if I remember correctly, um Paris says thought when seeing Helen for the first time is something about her being more beautiful than any flower he's ever seen. I remember I gotta, cause he was like given a flower that he was supposed to give to the most beautiful woman, and then Aphrodite wanted the flower, but he was just like nope, and gives it to her. I'm pretty sure it's something about flowers, but I don't remember the. But I'm pretty sure he says something about her being more beautiful than flowers, than like any uh, flower that he's ever seen, which fits into the whole thing. Like every time Ariman describes her, he describes her as springtime, which is when the most of the flowers bloom.
Also, when I first met too.
Yeah, it's also they met in April. Or like another thing, like how it's supposed to show you to be uh like that women can be successful, self-reliant, intelligent, insightful, and virtuous, and all that stuff. Because remember, at the time Jung was around, most people didn't think like that because he was around in the early 1900s. Like he was writing this stuff in like 1920, back when no one really thought that way. So most people didn't think that that could be the case. But he was out here being like, dude, you just don't understand. You're just anim possessed. You sound like a little pussy. When he's writing all this stuff, which just like thinking about it like that just cracks me all the way up. But when Arima describes her as raging 1 second and still the next, every moment I spend with her is like a roller coaster. She's the journey with no clear destination in sight. It's like your freedom itself. And then she turns around to Kosei, because Kosei saying that in his head, turns around and she says, no, I'm not. Freedom is what we find out there, which is perfectly encapsulates um, showing that they're capable of worldly success, being self reliant, intelligent, insightful, and virtuous. And it also shows off the internal qualities that Arima himself is lacking, like his inability to be like a piano player anymore for the most part because he's still stuck in his head about everything that happened with his mom. And to his credit, he is kind of justified for not wanting to play by himself again when he starts, because the last time he played piano was when he told his mom he just hoped the sickness would take her. So he's like kind of justified in not really wanting to do it anymore because of how much it
Makes
messed
sense.
him up. But at the same time, he can't become who he's supposed to be if he doesn't do it. And his anima, or the Helen part of his anima, proves that to him. And that's why, like, how they get to where they are. Or, like, another good example, I gotta find it because I wrote down a lot of quotes. Um, or, like, when he says, everything you do sparkles so brightly, sometimes I can't even look. That's how brightly you shine, Kaori. I want to be like you anyway. Or, where's it at? Trying to find the other one. She moves me forward relentlessly like a heartbeat. The music is everywhere. You're with me. Warm, dry air, the scent of dust. My journey has just begun. Like when he starts playing the piano with her, and he realizes, like after he fucks up the first time when they're playing their only duet actually, because the other duet's just in his head. The final duet, it's just in his
Uh-huh.
head. But I just think it's so like I don't know how to describe it other than like so well written and randomly well written too. Like you wouldn't think it's like that, but it is that deep. Like it comes off as
Yeah,
not that deep, but it is that deep.
but it is that deep.
And then like when he first describes to her how his he's not able to hear the piano, like after they play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which is also kind of funny that they're playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and all these other German and Austrian composers. And you know why it's funny? Young is Austrian, which is another connection. That's just
That's
like
like that.
it's rather like benign, but
But
it's also funny that
pleasantly
because
funny.
he's a Eastern European from outside like right outside Germany that came up with all these ideas, which is really cool. But when he explains to her why he doesn't really play piano anymore, Arima says, I'm fine at first, I can hear everything. Then it goes wrong. The, the more I concentrate, the more my performance begins to slowly consume me. The notes are pulled aloft like petals caught in the spring wind. Before I know it, they're gone. In every other aspect of my life, my hearing is perfect. The only sound that refuses to register is my own playing. It's my curse. I hear my fingers hit the keys themselves, thump down, in place. But that's all my ears are allowed. It's a curse that nothing can break. And it's hilarious because befriending Kaori does break the curse. Actually, you could argue that playing for his mother when he plays Love Sorrow is the thing that breaks the curse, is what I'd argue. Because that's his mom's like favorite song, or one of his mom's favorite song, and it was his lullaby. So you could argue that's when he first fully integrates. It's either that moment or the duet with Kaori. You could argue either one, because the duet with Kaori is the thing that gets Seto back into his life. So you could argue that one, which leads into the next stage of the anima integration. Well, you know his way through it. So it's just like you could argue either one, and I'm not sure which one I would argue the hardest on, cause I guess I would have to say the original duet, cause that's when his mom shows up and is happy in his head. So I guess that would be the correct place to say that he solved, like he fully integrated Eve, and now he's working on integrating Helen, and then him integrating Helen would probably be the final duet. And also, I noticed something really, really cool. when watching it that I haven't noticed before, and I'll show it off. Um, he wears a blue suit, right? Every time that he plays on the stage, he wears the same blue suit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yep.
So one thing that's really cool, um, the first time that he wears the suit and he drowns in the abyss of his own mind, um, the suit's rather dark, and it keeps the same dark color throughout it, but he's still wearing the same suit. But I'll throw it up on screen right now. When he plays the duet with Kaori, his suit is no longer the color of the deep water or the abyss within his head. It's actually the color of the top of water, a light blue, instead of the deeper mid-tone blue, implying that he's no longer drowning, but he's actually treading water. At least that's what I assume the metaphor's supposed to be. Because,
Underwater. Yeah.
yeah, but they're also playing on top of water in the final scene. Or not the final scene, but the final duet. They're playing on top of water, implying that he can stay afloat now and he won't drown in his own sorrows anymore. Which I just thought was really fucking cool. But I got it thrown up real quick so you can see how much of a difference the
Absolutely.
suit color changes in his mind. Because remember, the suit color doesn't actually change. He's wearing the same suit. It's just
Which is
in his
in,
mind,
and
his suit is a completely different color now. It's several shades lighter.
which is important because that's been his war. That's pretty much what's his mental.
Yeah, that's
So
like
the fact
part
that
of
it's
the
gotten to
entire
this
thing.
point, yeah, it's gotten to this point. You see just how far he's come.
Yeah, and when I noticed that, because I didn't notice it the first couple of times I've watched Your Lie in April, but when I noticed it that time, I was just like, there's no way that's an accident. Because they're completely different colors. Like at first I thought it could just be a lighting thing, but no, because this first shot that I took is him in bright lights. Like arguably even brighter lights than the right picture is. Like you could argue that it's an even brighter lights because even when that suit is in shadows, it's still a lighter color than it is when his other suit is in the bright lights of the stage. So I just think that's a beautiful use of color to show that he went from somebody drowning in the abyss of his own mind with an almost abyssal colored blue, like how real deep water is thematically, like a super
Yeah.
rich deep blue, and then almost a sky blue, like the top level of the water, showing that he's no longer drowning because it's heavily implied by that point he can hear his notes again. And I just think that's so cool. And I just had to, when I noticed that, I just had to show it. Like I had to take a picture of both to show it because it's just, that's good writing right there. I don't know another way to say that. It's just beautiful writing. And also,
Yeah, it was a good poetry moment.
I will say another thing in this. There's a bunch of good stuff in this show to tell your friend when they're depressed. Like a bunch of good ass lines. Like my favorite one I think is when he's walking home with Watari and
Oh yeah.
Watari, like he's complaining to Watari that he doesn't think he can do it, and Watari points up at the sky and he says, "See the stars? They're always out, but they shine the brightest at night." Like, bro, that's a good ass line. That shit go hard as fuck. Like there's no way that wasn't like somebody's just sitting there with a book of good proverbs, just like let's translate that. Let's put that one down. Write that down. Write that down. You know that meme? Like,
Yeah, then write that down. Yeah.
um, or like the when Kosei's having such a hard time with how he wants to play the Chopin piece um for their first duet, and he's says Kaori says, "Subaki told me this has been rough on you. Don't tell me it's not. When I saw your music room, I knew it for sure. You couldn't hear the piano, so you tried to abandon it, but you want to play even now. You can't get rid of it completely, so you hid it under dust and clutter. You love it, but can't go near it. You miss it, but can't touch it. It tears you up. I see there's no matter how much. I pretend not to. And all I do is tell you is just ugh. And all I do is tell you junk like let's go on a journey. You're hurting because of me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Just don't forget or Kosei then just says, just don't forget who wiped away the dust. Alright, if I looked pain, it's because adventures can be kinda scary. For me, it's like we sailed completely off the map. Creating something out of nothing is tough, but that's the part of it that feeds your soul. Which is another fucking bar. Like, you
And
wouldn't
that's a
expect
bar right there.
you wouldn't expect them to just be dropping bars in something that's like basically a high school drama.
Basically teaching you, basically teaching you like to when, especially making something out of nothing, and the fact that it feeds your soul because like that's the whole point of creation is to create something out of nothing. And once you
Yeah,
actually do it and you see it actually came to fruition and you can actually do it, then it makes making something out of nothing look a whole lot different than when you thought you couldn't do it originally.
yeah, and it's just like like we talked about earlier, like you wouldn't expect it out of just what comes off as just a what's the correct like it just comes off like a high school drama, like that's how it presents itself, but it turns out it's completely fucking different, like to a point that's almost uncomparable to how it feels like it comes off. And then you got the whole so the big meme, since you haven't seen it before, you might not know the big meme, but they call the show the anime sickness show because they don't explain what Kyrie or his mom have, what disease. They just have a disease that kills them. Uh,
You're right. They never really say what it
yeah.
is. Well, no, no, no. They said Kyrie had a fall.
Well, no, she was
Said she
sick
had a
before
fall in
that.
seventh grade.
The fall was a result of her
The
sickness.
ignitions, but the fall was like the
It's
ignition
just
of it
it
getting
getting
worse.
worse. Yeah, we just know
Yeah,
one of her symptoms is she's anemic, which means she has a problem with red blood cells. And it's probably not leukemia because she has hair. But also, you
yeah,
saw she fell, hit her head, and she lost enough blood to pass out from that. So it's probably a blood thing. Like online, people have theorized what it is. Like some doctors. The thing that people speculate that it is called Friedreich's ataxia because apparently all the symptoms match up perfectly. It's a rare inherited neurodivergent disorder that primarily affects the nervous system, causing progressive loss of coordination and other symptoms. It's a gene deficiency that you would have to inherit from both parents. And I'm looking on Johns Hopkins University website right now. It also would make sense because apparently it can like give you scoliosis and stuff like that, and you see how she stands at certain points in the story. It also makes sense with that. But where's the where's a thing that shows a bunch of symptoms at? So here's the symptoms: trouble walking, tiredness, loss of feeling that starts in the legs and spreads to arms and torso, loss of reflex, slow or slurred speech, hearing loss, vision loss, chest pains, shortness of breath, heart palpitations. And That's like the leading theory of what it is, but nobody knows. And apparently it's like it also makes sense because like going into surgery when she did, like in the time of her life that she did when she was a little kid and then in 7th grade, apparently that is something that can do it. Like that's one of the treatments that they do. Like where's it at? They braces for the arms, legs, feet, or spine, physical therapy, and then surgery to fix skeletal problems. So it would make sense. Um, is it deadly though? Okay, it is deadly. It it's almost always deadly. Most people with it die in their 30s, rarely in their 60s. And it can cause something called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And it's a condition where the heart muscle becomes abnormally thick. And I guess it makes it where it doesn't pump right, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but that's most likely what she had, which is super unfortunate because it's sounds like one of the things that a what's it called? A budding musical prodigy, because we see that she's pretty close to a musical prodigy, right? Just because you see like everyone adores how she plays music, except for that one judge who's an asshole that we can just ignore forever because that dude sucks so much. I'm gonna talk an unreasonable amount of shit to that one hottie toddy dude. You know which one I'm talking about? The one that always gets mad at Arima.
You talking
I can't.
about
I don't know if they say his
Judge
name.
Dude?
Yeah, the head judge.
Yeah.
Fuck that dude, by the way. I'm gonna talk way too much shit about him, but that would be a terrible disease. That Friedreich's ataxia would be terrible for how she works because she wants to be a violinist more than anything else. And that'd be one of the worst possible diseases for a violinist because it would completely ruin your ability to um, be a violinist. Like completely ruin your ability because it messes with your spine and your arms and legs, which would be terrible because it basically takes away everything you want. Which explains why at the end of it she's so sad. Like she even makes the joke to Kosei of saying, "Do you want to kill yourself with me?"
Yeah.
In the like
She that
third
was
to
a
last episode.
yeah, they turned the tide with that one there.
Yeah, when they showed off
That
how
was out of
bad she
nowhere.
actually feels.
Yeah. Like especially when they started like actually putting the comparisons between her and his mom.
Yeah, that when they
Like when they
showed her and
started
her mom,
dropping
like, dude.
when they started dropping because they first in one of the flashbacks dropped um pills. I think it was they showed Kyrie first how many pills she was taking and showed it like quick when she was in that bathroom.
Yeah, it was
Then the same episode
it was the
simultaneously showing her mom, I mean his mom, have how many pills she had on her back on her bedside at the hospital.
yeah.
That same kind of parallel there, and it was yeah. It was at that point really I knew just how bad it actually was, but she was still kind of mobile and stuff, and how she was forcing it really all through all of that because I think a lot of that stuff she really wasn't supposed to be on stage.
And then there's the whole like the Connolly, like the last thing she wants to eat before everything happens is she wants to eat her dad's Connolly's. And the whole reason that she eats so many sweets is because of she like knows that she doesn't have much time left, so she just wants to eat whatever tastes the best and all that. Man, this shit's making me sad again. You know what I mean? Like thinking about it, like it just makes me sad. Or like when Kosei has to go up to the hospital to talk to her to bring the
Hmm.
Connolly's that he promised. And they
Yep.
both agree. She agrees to have the surgery that has a chance to fix stuff for a long time, and they agree to do one last performance together that turns into the performance in his head. That shit is sad as fuck, bro. I
Yeah, no, that
I
shit
hate
was
how
pretty
sad
sad.
this shit is, dude. But it's like it's hard to describe because it's like one of those like you feel better for the suffering that you went through watching it. You know what I mean? Like the sadness makes you feel better just because it's like for lack of better terms, it hurts so good. Like I don't know a better way to describe it, but it's like one of those. It's like breaking your arm in just the right way that it makes it to where like yeah, it sucks that you broke your arm, but if you break your arm in just the right way, your arm will be stronger than it was before you broke it. You know what I'm talking about? Like if you break your arm cleanly, it'll be significantly stronger than it was before the break because of how our bodies work.
Frills and couples.
Yeah, we kind of have we kind of have a Zenkai boost, but that's like how this I think of this anime. But that's like how it makes me think that it's that's like it breaks your heart a little bit, but it makes you better for it, especially when you see the what's it called, the anima stuff in there, because integrating your anima obviously makes you a better person because it makes you the best version of yourself you can be. And I'm putting off reading the last few lines of the show because I want to talk about some more stuff before I get sad again. Because I wrote down the entirety of the letter,
Yeah,
but I'm
that is definitely the
not
point.
gonna read the entire letter, but just the most important part of the letter. But the letter is almost an entire episode, and that shit is so sad, dude. Like, good God, it's sad. So I guess that's enough. That's enough stalling. I'll go ahead and read it. So what's the verdict? Was I able to live in someone's heart? And then Kosei answers out loud, no question. And Kaori, he continues to read Kaori's note and says, and this heart, it wouldn't happen to be yours, would it? And then Kosei answers, you barged in without knocking. And then he continues to read Kaori's notes. Do you think you'll remember me a little from time to time? And then Kosei answers, got no choice. You'd come back to haunt me. And then Kaori says, no hitting the reset button, and Kosei says not ever, implying that he's fully integrated the Helen part of his anima. At least that's what I take from that in that exchange, is that he is fully integrated Helen, and now he's working through Mary, and then we'll eventually get to Sophia over time. Now I'm sad. Think about the last episode, but it's so like I can't recommend the show enough for people, even if you don't like slice of life. It's just one of those things that it just has so many universal things to talk like in it, like dealing with loss and stuff like that. Also, another thing I completely forgot to mention is you know what the first episode where the cat inside his head shows up at?
First episode
Yeah, the title of the episode, the first time that the cat shows up in his head.
is the Resonance.
No, it is episode 7. It is called The Shadows Whisper,
The Shadows Whisper. Okay, I'll think
which
about
even
it.
more heavily implies that the cat is supposed to be a shadow because it's The Shadows Whisper. And it's the episode where the cat talks to him. Which is another thing, like they knew 100 because that was probably the name of the chapter in the manga because this was a manga.
I suppose.
It wasn't just like a idea for an animation because sometimes that does happen. But yeah, but that's the main points I wanted to talk about today. I didn't know if there is any other stuff you wanted to talk about with it. I kind of expected
I
today to
mean,
be a little bit shorter than normal.
just to echo what you said. I mean, it is a wouldn't recommend a lot of Slice of Life to people, but this one is definitely one that's top tier. Even me, as never really person who really watched Slice of Life before, as far as the first one that I watched, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just seeing a lot of aspects in it, from down to the music aspects, which I thoroughly, sympathize with, and of course, when you get past all the like romantic stuff, you can see the real mental battle that all the characters are having, the true mental fortitude that all of them are displaying, and the true mental like um who's really mentally like weaker, or like seeing a lot of the, I won't say weaker, but sort of seeing kind of the worst of it in, like, of course Kaori, and of course Arima, but you see Subaki's mental wars, and you see not really a lot of the mental wars that um Watari has, but he has his own battles too, because of course we see how he handled his thing on the field when he missed the game saving goal, and he still showed how he could still be a team captain and keeping his teammates up even though they just lost, and make sure to stay on point. But it was a lot of stuff that you see, and a lot of shonen aspects in it. But no, you hit a lot of nails on the head, especially with the shadows integrating and the stages. It's always nice to hear us dive into those topics again that we dove in when we first started the channel. If anybody been around since then, when we talked about a lot of these concepts in Naruto, when we talked about it and compared it to it then. But no, that's about it for me too, man. Um, y'all already
Yeah,
know what it is, man. Like, comment, subscribe, man.
yeah. Hope everyone has a good week. There's not gonna be an episode next week, so on the what's the next week after that? I gotta remember.
The ninth of the 10th, okay.
Yeah, the 11th will be the
Oh,
next episode.
no,
The
that's
11th
that's yeah, the
will
11th.
be the
Yeah,
next
11th.
episode. Um, I'm not sure what the topic's gonna be yet. I have a couple ideas. Um,
We'll get into it.
if it'll let me make a community post, I might even just put a poll up if it'll let me, because I got a couple ideas. Mm, So keep y'all posted. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate all y'all.
Appreciate y'all. As
Um,
always, appreciate y'all.
and hope y'all have a good week. And it's Corrupted
And Dragon,
signing off. Deuces, everybody.
peace.